Zimbabwe's cricketers have formed a players' union for the first time in their bid to negotiate better salaries for themselves. They had earlier boycotted training until their demands were met. ESPNcricinfo South Africa correspondent Firdose Moonda tells us why the standoff came about.
Well, Zimbabwe's cricketers are in an unusual position in that they were the only international cricketers who don't earn match fees. So they were on central contracts. There are 10 players on a central contract, but they don't get match fees in addition to that like players in other countries. This year, there was also winter contracts introduced for those players who are not among the 10 in the centrally contracted list, but who play in the winter tours. The one demand was that they all get match fees. The players' other demand was in relation to ICC events. They wanted a guarantee from Zimbabwe Cricket that they would get a certain percentage, and we're not sure what that percentage is, but a certain percentage of the money that Zimbabwe Cricket gets from ICC events.
The formation of a players' union has been months in the making, but recent events, including Zimbabwe Cricket's defaulting on the players' July salary, pushed the matter to how they are now. But it isn't the first protest Zimbabwe Cricket has seen. Back in April 2004, 13 members of the Zimbabwe cricket team released a statement airing their concerns about the state of cricket in the country after Heath Streak was dismissed as the captain. Then by 2005 October, Zimbabwe's cricketers were playing without contracts even as the Zimbabwe Professional Cricketers Association tried to strike a new deal with the governing body. In January 2006, Zimbabwean cricketers refused to go for a tour of the West Indies until their demands were met. They wanted new contracts and Chairman Peter Chingoka removed from office. The interim board then suspended the national team for at least a year, and Zimbabwe didn't play their next official test match till 2011. And then, earlier this year in April, Zimbabwe's cricketers threatened to boycott their series against Bangladesh in protest against inadequate payments from the board. Firdose Moonda believes this latest standoff and the resulting agreements is unprecedented in the country.
So this protest is vastly different from other protests we've seen in Zimbabwean cricket before because it's not a race issue. This is probably one of the first instances where black and white players are united in their demands, and the demands are about pay. And I think that makes that the biggest difference here. The negotiations, and in terms of how successful they are, we're not going to know that yet because we don't know what the exact agreement is. We know that they've come to an agreement, but we're not sure the exact terms of that. If the Zimbabwean players are getting match fees and a percentage of the World Cup take, then it will probably be deemed as a very successful negotiation process. And I think the most important thing to come out of this is that there is now a players' association. Zimbabwe Cricket has been trying, and they've had many aborted attempts at a players' association, but they've formed one now because the board has given them a window in which the players can get together and can form an association. They've now got one, and if it continues to work and they have a united voice with which they can confront their board, then this outcome would probably be one of the most successful things to have happened in Zimbabwean cricket for a long time.
While an agreement has been reached between the players and the board, there's concerns that the debt-laden board may struggle to meet all their demands.
So Zimbabwe Cricket were put in quite a difficult position because, as we know, they're in severe debt. And when you have a bunch of players coming and making demands that you simply cannot afford, and that's what they tell us, that they simply cannot afford these things, it means that their negotiating power is severely reduced. So the Zimbabwean Cricket Board, I think, handled this possibly in the best way they could have, in that they kept the door open for negotiations. They were open to the media. It's one of the first times where, when they were contacted, they were willing to answer questions without darting in and out and in between issues. And they were quite frank in saying that the players want match fees. We're not sure we can afford them. The players want to take of the World Cup amount that we get from the ICC, and we're negotiating on those things. In terms of going forward, what will be very interesting is how Zimbabwe Cricket responds to this players' association, and whether they take them seriously, whether this players' association can actually make a difference in what the players are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Zimbabwean cricket is not going to get rich overnight. The tour against India brought in between $6 and $8 million, which is a fair amount of money. But let's remember they've got $15 million in loans. So when they've put so much money changing hands and with so much money unaccounted for, I suppose, or unexplained, and we're not sure why they're in debt, to come up with a feasible solution that will keep everyone happy is very difficult, but this could be a step in the right direction.
For now, though, the focus is back to their upcoming series against Pakistan as the African side play host. The two sides lock horns in the first T20 International on the 23rd of August.